Donnie and Dolly, the team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Just ahead of Dave Randorf, our second guest of the day. This is unsigned. As a rebuttal to what Donnie was saying, what's the difference between binge watching Netflix and playing video games? One is judged much harder than the other. What if he's watching Yellowstone until 4 a.m.?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? If you are watching Yellowstone, one thing about that is that, you'll fall asleep early.
Fall asleep.
Because it is just not entertaining. You fall asleep.
Actually, 7 hours.
It would be a good cure if you can't get to sleep.
Yeah.
Let's bring in Dave Randorf, voice of the Tampa Bay Lightning on Bally Sports Connection Lightning on Thursday. How are you, sir?
Some things just never, ever change. I'm on the show for literally 10 seconds, and Dawn is running down a show that I am enjoying immensely right now.
Oh.
Some things just, Dolly, some things never change.
I know.
Back in the day, I would barge into the sports page newsroom and tell Dawn what I'm excited about, and he would sit there and just say, "That's the worst show or the worst thing ever." What are you talking about? I guess I shouldn't be surprised. Here we are.
No, I've tried 4 episodes of Yellowstone, and it's too beautiful and flat and boring. Tell me it gets better. A lot of people have said that.
Well, first of all, you should know more than anybody that you can't judge a show on 4 episodes.
10-second Donnie.
Yeah, I would have given up on Game of Thrones in 4 episodes, but I didn't. It ended up being amazing. I've just finished. I'm 2 episodes into season 2.
Okay.
So listen, it's I like it. I'm not going to waste this whole thing on trying to convince you because your mind's already made up. I know how this works.
I'm out. I'm done.
The other question I have is, you mentioned video games. Are we talking about that whole video? Who was it playing video games?
Ulevi. It was supposed to be Ulevi.
Or Pedersen.
Is that still a topic there?
According to this guy.
Apparently,
no, we had a text.
Apparently, Pedersen's playing a lot of Pong. And it's causing problems. And watching Yellowstone at the same time. How's life?
How are you boys?
Good, very good. How's life in Tampa? It's been over a year now. They've won a Stanley Cup since you were there. Your good luck charm.
Yeah.
How's it in Tampa?
It's great. Actually, what's today? The 12th. My 1-year anniversary of living here was January 6th. The day of the insurrection. I'll never forget that.
Oh, right.
The year has flown by. It's been an amazing ride. The move down here has been great. I love it here. It's been a lot of fun to cover the team and to meet new friends, and the organization's been great to me. But I will never forget, just from a work standpoint and from a sports fan standpoint, I honestly will not forget being in the building when a Stanley Cup is won by the home team. It was an amazing, intense last 5-6 minutes that I will never forget as a sports fan. It was incredible. Remember, the game was 1-0, and it was the roar of that crowd was fantastic. And I hadn't been to a Stanley Cup final in person since '94, since we covered the Canucks.
Yeah.
I had no reason to be at a Stanley Cup final. I wasn't covering them. I wasn't calling those games at that level for sure. And that was the first time I'd been back to a Stanley Cup final since Game 6 of the '94 final.
Which was a tremendous game at the Coliseum. The goal that wasn't a goal that ended up being a goal. All of that. Hey, Dave, one thing we talked about, maybe not so much after '94, but back in 2011 and the years that followed, there was always this talk of a Stanley Cup hangover with the Canucks, even though they didn't win the Stanley Cup. Tampa Bay doesn't seem to have a problem with that. How come?
Well, I can't really, I don't want to compare too quickly on the 2 rosters from '94 and 2011.
Yeah.
I can't remember all the pieces there that are involved, but the core for the Tampa Bay Lightning is all back. When you're talking about everything in Tampa Bay starts with Victor Hedman and Steven Stamkos. 2 long-time, high first and second overall picks that they have built this whole thing around. Not only built their team on the ice around, but they built their culture around and built their leadership around. Everybody falls in line after those guys because they set the standard. And then you add in guys like Ryan McDonough, Nikita Kucherov, and Braden Point, driven, very good athletes. Alex Killorn's been here a long time. So a lot of that nucleus is back. And, as long as you've got Andrei Vasilevsky, you're at the table. You're in the card game, no matter what. So you add all that in, and then their ability they're still hungry, Don. I mean, this is a team that just got Nikita Kucherov back. He's been back for 3 games after missing 32. They went on a 25-game run where they went 19-3-3. Did they steal a few of those? Absolutely. We're talking about some real, start the bus, let's get out of here wins. But you don't apologize for that. You don't apologize for a great goaltender, which they've got. But they did that primarily without Kucherov, without Point for most of that, without Eric Chernak, who's a very underrated piece of this puzzle. And this team remains hungry, and they remain driven to be there in the end. And I'm telling you right now, they can do it again. I don't know whether they will. There's lots that goes into that, but can they do it again? Absolutely, they can do it again.
Hey, Dave, you mentioned Steve Stamkos there. I know there have been injuries, but he leads Tampa Bay in points, and I feel for the guy because, once again, he's missing out on an Olympic opportunity. But how special is it to have him back healthy and producing?
This may surprise Canuck fans or hockey fans in Western Canada to look. Maybe you haven't looked at the overall scoring standings. He is, I believe, 5th right now. Yeah. 5th overall in the league. He's over 30 now. This is year 10 for him. He hasn't been at these heights for a while because he hasn't been healthy. This guy's remember the knee injury he had that robbed him of his first Olympic opportunity, crashed into the net in Boston. He's had core surgeries. He had a surgery last year, didn't play the last 16 games. He only played 3 minutes of the Stanley Cup playoff run in 2020. If we all remember that one shift, he scored a goal and he was out throughout the whole thing. So he's healthy, and he's moving on the ice freely. My partner, Brian Engblom, who I do the games here with, who's done them now for 7 seasons, says he's never seen Steven Stamkos moving this freely with his game. And he came in with a feeling good about himself physically, and he also came in motivated because he wanted to, A, prove he was still, that guy, and B, he wanted to be on the long list for the Olympic selection. Yeah. And we all know that's not going to happen, but he used that as motivation, and there's nothing wrong with that, especially when the head coach is watching him up close every single night. But he's a real leader. This guy goes about his business. He's got his game day routines, and I see him now around the team a lot, traveling with the team. He is a real pro. He's inclusive to everybody. Taylor Radish, Boris Kachuk, young guys. He's a real captain, man. I see it up close now, and I couldn't be happier for him for his success.
Dave, last 2 Canuck home games canceled. You're a Canadian in the U.S. The Lightning, their rink is full. I just want to get your thoughts on everything that's going down there, COVID, why you got 2 countries so close to each other with so many different thoughts, the process there.
Well, I don't want to get into a big political discussion here. I just came off the COVID protocol as myself. Ground zero for the Lightning was John Cooper. We were in Las Vegas the last game before the Christmas break. It was the only game in the whole night. Everything else was postponed, and here we were in Las Vegas. And we found out a couple hours before that John had tested positive, and then we all tested when we landed that next morning. I tested negative then, and then myself and a couple other players tested positive. And I can just tell you from my personal experience, I'm vaxxed and boosted, and I had very mild symptoms, if anything. But I sat it out like you're supposed to, and then I've tested negative since. Listen, I will say this. I feel awful for friends of mine in Vancouver, my sons in Toronto who can't go to sporting events or do anything now because they're locked down in Ontario. And then you flick on the TV and you see a barn like in Tampa Bay or pick your American city, and it's full and it's going off and it's business as usual. It's a different mentality here. The restrictions that are put in place in Canada, I can tell you there would be riots in the streets here, certainly in the state that I live in and in the United States. They just wouldn't accept it. Now, is everybody vaxxed? No. Are there masks? Yes, there are masks. I've been out today. I had to go run some errands today. There's masks in the grocery store. And when you run around, I know in Emily Arena right now, there's a mask mandatory rule for all employees. So it's not like this. We're just running around ignoring it here. And again, I've been through it. So I'm okay. But at the same time, how do I say this without getting too political? It's just a different approach here. And I'm doing everything I can on my wife and I. We do everything we can here, but beyond that, we're free to live our lives a little bit more. And I really feel for people who are frustrated there in Canada.
Well said, Dave. Hey, before I let you go, how disappointing is it for John Cooper and so many other members of the Tampa Bay Lightning Oregon? I can tell by the look in your face. You think I'm going to ask you another Yellowstone question here, but I'm not.
No.
How disappointing I know you well. How disappointing is it for so many members of the Tampa Bay organization that would have gone to the Olympics to not go to the Olympics?
Very, very disappointing. First of all, from John Cooper's standpoint, he's been very frank about it. He's used the word, it's devastating. You never know. I mean, he's certainly the longest tenured coach right now, very successful, but 4 years, a lot can happen in 4 years. You never know who's going to be the hot coach at that point in time. Yeah. Would he be on the list? Certainly he would be, but it's another 4 years, and what will it look like then? But for guys like Steven Stamkos and Victor Hedman, you realize Victor Hedman has never been to the Olympics? Yeah. Sometimes that surprises people. Wow. You forget. He was left off the last time they went. Go look back at Sweden's defense that had Johnny Oduya and guys like that, and Jonathan Eriksson on their defense, and no Victor Hedman. Now, it was earlier in his career, but he was still, it was
controversial.
Yeah. It was somewhat controversial, and he's never been. And just like Canadians, Europeans to play in the Olympics, it's Swedes and Finns and Russians. It's a big, big deal. And all this talk about, we'll organize a World Cup and all that kind of stuff, that very well may happen and we'll all watch, but it's not the same. It's not the Olympics. Whether you agree with the faded Olympic ideals or not, when it all comes down to it, and when that ski race is happening, or that hockey game is happening, or that women's soccer game is happening, we're all watching. And that's why I feel for these guys, because an Olympic cycle is a long time.
Has Kodak Black ever shown up at a Tampa Bay home game?
Just waiting.
Yeah,
okay. Just waiting.
Yeah.
I don't know. He was in South Florida last night. Maybe he's making the tour. But
he's following the Canucks.
Yeah,
don't let him in the broadcast booth if he shows up tomorrow.
I am not even touching the Kodak Black humor. I was positive Don's been dropping the Kodak Black one-liners all day, and I'll just leave. I will say this. Okay. That is the video that back in the day, Sports Page would have had a field day with. It would have just gone on for weeks. Yeah. The headlines, everything. It would have been.
Oh, those were the days. We're doing our best. We're doing our best right now to include Kodak in everything we're doing.
Yes.
All right, Dave. Thanks so much. Always good, my friend. Always good to catch up.
Yeah, great to see you guys, and congrats on the show. I do tune in. It's fabulous what you guys are doing here. So congrats on the Donnie and Dolly show there.
Okay. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it. Canucks and Lightning tomorrow in Tampa Bay. Dave does the call for the Lightning on Bally Sports down there.